lawsuits coming down on the NFA, Alligator Alcatraz, UPenn ditches their trans policy, and our special guest, Charlie Cook. This is The Loaded Mic, and I'm Dan Wass. Sometimes we have to fight them legally. Trump's big, beautiful bill passed, but we're not totally happy. Although congressmen negotiated across the aisle for terms and conditions, when it comes to our Second Amendment rights, gun owners got shafted. The big, beautiful bill threw gun owners table scraps with the removal of the $200 tax on short-barrel rifles, short-barrel shotguns, and suppressors, but failed to remove those items from the National Firearms Act. So gun owners are now still stuck with an unconstitutional registration process involving those items. The entire firearms community came out for this fight with a constant stream of phone calls, emails, social media pressure on on congressional members, and the unity among gun owners was nothing short of inspiring. But they didn't take us seriously enough. So it's time to remind our elected employees who they work for. Now, we're going to talk about this and many other things with He's So Smart, Your IQ Will Increase Just by Being Friends with Him on Facebook, John Chiara. And from Massachusetts, our good friend and host of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, Charlie Cook. So, Charlie, welcome to the show.
It's great to be back. I'm honored you guys had me on to take place of Anthony. I don't have nearly as many tattoos.
Or as much mass.
And you're not quite as rude. Oh, mass. Now that's not nice. He's not even here to defend himself.
That's why we're talking about him. He's not here. Tar baby.
Oh, so Charlie, big Second Amendment news. Like I said, the big beautiful bill, is a thing now. But we fought to get that $200 tax removed and to get those items off the NFA. It's just a violation of our rights. There should be no gun registry. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that to start, and we can go anywhere from there. I do have a video of Senior Vice President for Gun Owners of America, Eric Pratt, explaining a little bit about it. But what are your thoughts on the big beautiful bill as it relates to the NFA stuff?
So ultimately, to me, it doesn't mean anything. And I hate saying this. It doesn't mean anything. I get it's a victory. I get people don't have to spend the $200 tax, whether I've heard people say, $200 is a lot of money, $200 isn't a lot of money. But I live in occupied territory where we can't have them regardless. Doesn't matter how much you have to pay to have them.
Right.
I've heard some people say that the tax what you have to register is the tax that you pay, because it's a tax stamp that you have to purchase. And since you don't have to pay the tax anymore, then there shouldn't be a registration. So eventually this will be better for people and easier for them to get a suppressor. But I've also heard, I watched a video this morning that Tom Grieve did, where he talked about he's not necessarily a fan because since it's still suppressors are still an NFA item. Yeah. Essentially the next Democrat that ends up in office could end up going back and revisiting the tax and saying, hey, listen, you know what? When guns were $30, they added a zero and made a $200 tax stamp for it. Now, if guns are $500, they're going to add a zero and make it a $5,000 stamp, because it's, the $200 didn't adjust for the price of inflation over the years. But I'm glad it passed. Thank God. I mean, it's not going to affect me. I doubt it's going to affect you guys. I still can't have anything like that. So that's it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing when we can get the liberals to wake up and realize that we have a right to have these things, and these are integral parts of firearms. And if they're easier and more affordable for people to get, then maybe they will end up in more of common use for people.
Yeah, and we're gonna play this clip from Eric Pratt here in a second because he explains a little bit more about what GOA is doing. So it's unacceptable. The $200 tax is irrelevant, when it comes down to the big scheme of things. Right. That in 1934, when the National Firearms Act was enacted, that tax, and Democrats will tell you, but that tax was there to create what's called a chilling effect. What it does is it's designed to discourage you from exercising your right. So they made $200 was a lot of money back then. And so they made it so people would be like, oh, geez, I can't afford the $200, so I just won't have these things. So in essence, not being able to exercise, their right. So the chilling effect was the reason for the tax. But the registration is what they really want now, because we talk a lot about red flag laws and gun confiscation and stuff like that. So that's why they want that in there, I believe. And you're right, Charlie. You're in Massachusetts. We're in New York. So nothing really changes for us because our gun laws, at least I don't know about Massachusetts specifically, but New York specifically says that this stuff is just completely banned, regardless of the Second Amendment, regardless of federal law. So we got to change that too at the state level. But I would have liked to see it.
Why are they? What's banned exactly?
Almost everything.
Yeah, almost everything. But with respect to this, what's banned is the ability to own short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, suppressor without first registering it, and it was also a tax. So, but here in New York, it's just banned altogether. So they could even change the federal law, and we'd still have to fight New York for that right.
Well, I think that's the case with a lot of things in the big bill, is that a lot of states are going to go in all different directions on different kinds of things. Just listening to the ON podcast about AI, states are going to have different regulations. Same as self-driving cars, they have different regulations. Everything's going to be up in the air for a period of time on this. So it doesn't matter to us right now, but it still matters.
Well, so let's go to this video of Eric Pratt, Senior Vice President of Gun Owners America and friend of ours. And I just took a little clip, but basically he kind of explains what they're going to do. GOA is not settling for this. They're not accepting it. So there's going to be a big lawsuit. Can we play that video?
With a snap of her fingers. So now that the $0 NFA tax stamp is in the bill and was protected by the Byrd Rule, it has become law. While it's a small step forward, it isn't what GOA fully fought for. We didn't give up, and we continued fighting to overrule and fire the parliamentarians. Still, as we feared, our calls to do this fell on deaf ears in the Senate and later in the House. And as far as I've seen, only Senator Marshall, our short X sponsor, and Senators Tuberville and Paul wanted to fire the parliamentarian. So in the end, the House and the Senate only passed the bare minimum version, which removes the taxes on short-barreled firearms and suppressors, but unfortunately keeps the registration requirements. We know that the tax is the least of the problems with the NFA. The registry must be dismantled along with taxation. Dealing with one without the is only a half measure. And while I know that merely getting the $0 tax isn't ultimately what we wanted, there is a silver lining. More suppressors will be sold, and we'll have a better argument to challenge the NFA in court. As I mentioned earlier, GOA has already announced that we are going to file a lawsuit to remove suppressors and short-barreled firearms from the National Firearms Act of 1934. And we'll be joined by other groups, so just follow us on X and stay tuned for more details about this for when and where it happens.
So while we're on Gun Owners America, let me just give them a little plug here. They are the ones who are fighting for our gun rights. Gun Owners of America and GOA is the no compromise gun rights group. So I urge everyone to become a member at gunowners.org. What have they done? Well, GOA secured a preliminary injunction against the ATF pistol brace rule. GOA members submitted a record 85,000 plus comments opposing the ATF's universal registration check rule. They helped enact permitless carry in Nebraska and Florida. GOA secured victories in California, Illinois, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. Plus, they won 2 legal victories against the ATF's zero tolerance policy. And GOA fought to overturn Joe Biden's ban on funding hunter education, shooting sports, and archery in schools. So with the constant attacks on our Second Amendment, we often ask ourselves, well, what can I do about it? This is what you can do. You can become a member at gunowners.org and help us save the Second Amendment. So let's talk a little bit, guys, about what they're doing. So what Eric said there is, even though we didn't win the removal of the short barrel, the SBR's, short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, and suppressors off the NFA, he said it set us up now for lawsuit. So Charlie, on one hand, says, and I agree with him, that Democrats could come in and create whatever tax they want now. It's just a matter of who's in office. But Eric is saying that now that this happened, we're set up so we can go in for the kill with a really heavy lawsuit. What are your thoughts on that, Charlie?
I say let's do it, but oh my gosh, we need this sounds expensive, is what it sounds like to me.
Well, that's a great point. Yeah, exactly. It's very expensive. That's why we want to get this stuff before it becomes legislation, because it's millions of dollars to fight.
Yeah,
these things.
Once it becomes legislation, once it becomes law, it's a lot harder to go back and change it. It's it's not only just the process, it's the money and the time. Like, it took the Heller was 6 or 7 years in the progress to get to the Supreme Court, and the process to get up to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and what was Bruin? Bruin started in 15, ended. Yeah, Bruin was 7 years too.
Yeah, so these things take time, and they take a lot of money to do all this nonsense, to get rid of the nonsense. Excuse me, let me take that back. Yeah, so this is why people need to join all these groups and give up a little here, give up a little there, and send it to the program groups like GOA.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Well, I think, these issues we're talking about are on most people's minds out there. I mean, CNN's not talking about this.
Right.
Fox isn't talking about this,
It was frustrating because anytime any of the national news was talking about the big, beautiful bill, it's all we're talking about in the gun world, but they're never mentioned. That was like one of those things that they just, whatever, it's not important.
That's the problem with these gigantic bills, and I was just listening today again how they say it's hard to get things done with little small bills. They all throw it all together like this, and then all this other stuff ensues. And you got to worry about filibuster, you got to worry about all this other ways of changing things. It's got to go back and forth between the House and the Senate. You got all kinds of lobbying going on, people making promises that might happen and it might not happen. So it's not, this falls way down to the bottom of the list for a lot of people in Congress, I would assume. I bet most of the people in Congress don't even know that this is in there.
Yeah, that's true. Did you hear, speaking of like the filibuster, did you watch any of Haktua Jeffries? What's his name? 8.5 hours of blathering nonsense? What the hell is that?
That's
and
ridiculous.
Why? Do they think that's going to make the Democrats look good?
Cory Booker did that a few months ago, didn't he?
Yes.
Like 13 hours of filibustering.
Yeah,
this guy's going to have to take a bathroom break and get something to eat.
I was hoping he'd wet his pants. That was.
He's got
Probably
box of
chances are good he wears
Depends
the diaper.
next to him.
Do they wear
Little diaper pail.
Haktua Jeffries wearing a diaper just so he can make a scene. It was ridiculous. Oh my God.
It is, and John brought up a good point. There's, as gun folks, we know that the gun stuff is in this bill, but the other stuff are things I've heard. I don't know if the everyone's concerned about. Trump is cutting Medicaid and all that sort of stuff, but it seems like he's just cutting it to the illegal aliens. So, what's the problem?
Yeah.
Why are we paying this stuff anyway?
Yeah,
People don't care. I've met lots of women friends of mine on social media who are like, "Oh, you're in your Maine, you don't have any empathy, blah blah blah." And my first question is, do you know what's being caught? Because I don't think that you do. You're just jumping on the bandwagon and saying it's got to be bad because Trump is behind it, and that you're not looking at any of the details. And again, 15 million people came in over the last 4 years. Who's paying for all that stuff? Does anybody even talk about any of this thing? It's just insane.
And isn't it amazing how they say you don't have any compassion for criminals, for like what we're often talking about is killers, rapists, and whoever. They have more compassion for those people than it seems that they do for their fellow citizens.
That's why they're on the side of Gaza and they're on the side of everything else.
It's amazing.
All the people that, all the places that if they were to go there, they would be persecuted. They're siding with those people. It's like just a gigantic overall narrative that just makes no sense. I wish I could get people to explain it. Go ahead, Charlie.
I heard a good one, and somebody said if I'm a farmer and you're a farmer and your cow comes over to my property and has a baby, it's not my cow, it's still your cow, and it's still your calf. It's not my responsibility. It's yours.
That yesterday. I was going to share it.
Yep, no,
yeah, I thought that was great.
And off the kind of a little bit off the topic, but they talk, how they want, free everything for everybody. But I saw this one little thing, and sometimes it takes just a little picture, a little meme, or a little something to help you understand a concept better. And it really brought it to light for me. It always made sense, but it really made it clear when they said, how many people want free stuff? And everyone raises their hand, right? Whole group of people. How many people want to pay for other people to have free stuff? It's such a hypocrisy, but I don't know how they ever have anybody in office tell you the truth, the Democrats.
Well, look at New York City. What's going to happen there?
That's going to be interesting.
I saw it piggybacking right on with what you were talking about, Dan. I saw a video where this guy was, I don't know where he was, probably somewhere in California, Long Beach or something crazy like this outside. And he goes up to all the, goes up to these people and he says, hey, listen, do you think college should be free? They're like, oh my God, absolutely. People should have free education. He's like, great. I need you to write here how much more you're interested in paying or how much of your salary wants to go to this. And they're like, wait, what are you talking about? Yeah. They're like, well, someone's got to pay for the education, the professors, the colleges, the everything else. How much are you willing to put in? They're like, oh yeah, we're not interested in doing this. And then turn around and walk away.
Yeah. Well, that's like when they say they support illegals and they should have a place to live, a free housing and stuff like that. Okay, well, are you willing to put them up in your home? Oh, no, right? No, I don't have the room.
It's just dumb.
Unbelievable. We got a lot to get to here, so let me go to a topic here. 3 Pennsylvania officials who cheated in election get prison time. One is still in office, and this is an article by the Federalist. Pennsylvania, where officials swear elections are safe and secure, 3 elected officials are headed to prison after admitting they cheated in the 21 election. Their cases reveal common vulnerabilities in the voting process that have yet to be cured. 3 men who all at the time were elected Democrat members of the Milborne Borough Council tried to rig the mayoral election in favor of one of them. They failed by 30 votes, got caught, and in June, each was sentenced to prison. Why are they doing this now? Do they not think they're going to get... I think that's probably it. They don't think they're going to get in trouble.
I guess.
I was listening to, I'm a big fan of Adam Carolla, and I was listening to Carolla's podcast this week, and I can't remember if it was July 2nd or July 3rd, but he had somebody on that had done, this person's got a book coming out, and they were talking about a whistleblower in the CIA, and this guy came out and said every year since 2016 the elections were rigged with the Dominion machines and all, and I guess the electronic voting came from Venezuela, where they were able to rig all of their elections, and they did the same thing in 2016 and in 2020, and they tried doing it in 2024, and it just didn't work. Thank goodness.
And I don't understand how anybody can look at the Biden win as a real win. I mean, it just doesn't make... I still go back to that all the time and say, how is it that this guy who was in his basement, couldn't draw a crowd of 3, literally, I think one time you had 6 people standing, each had their own circle. It was just ridiculous. While Trump is pulling down these arenas, 50,000 people arenas, but then all of a sudden, Biden wins more votes than any other American president in history. And then they're showing you, they're putting up the cardboard in Philly so that you couldn't see the vote count. And then the pipe bursts, and all of a sudden, all the voting stops while Trump is ahead. And then magically, after they start counting again, Biden's in the lead. Come on, people. Does anybody who's being honest actually believe that Biden won that? Fair.
With all of the videos we've seen of people that were stuffing ballots in the middle of the night, and I forget what that movie was called. 2000, what was it? 2000 Mules?
Yeah.
2000. Yeah. When you watch videos like that and see people just pouring in boxes and boxes of ballots, only a buffoon is going to think that the election was not rigged.
Well, only a buffoon is not going to have questions, right? That's the thing.
At least question it.
You can't even get people to that first stage. Like, doesn't this make you wonder about what's going on here? And so many are just stuck right where they are. They're not moving no matter what. You can, like I say, Trump could cure cancer, and they'd say, no, he's a bad guy.
No, we want cancer.
Yeah, we want cancer.
We want cancer's good.
He's stopping the natural process of life.
Well, again, and I keep bringing up the whole PBS or the 60 Minutes thing from 2015 or 16, where the Democrats were on there complaining about how they were afraid the Dominion machines were able to be hacked and that the election in 2016 wasn't going to be fair. And then when things happen that are suspicious, where are they? Totally changed their position on all this. The Republicans are bad. They're lying. They're making things up. It can't happen. The election was fair. Blah blah blah.
It's so obvious what's happening. It's so obvious they're just cheating and wanting to win and
cheaters.
Yeah, it's just so obvious. But we have to play this silly game and try to and show proof. And this. They cheated here, they cheated there, show all this proof, and then the media comes in and covers it up. And it's such a stupid game that we have to play when everybody in their right mind knows that the Democrats are cheaters. But somehow, they've almost normalized their behavior. They normalize their behavior with a lot of things.
Absolutely.
With the trans stuff, with everything. Go ahead, Charlie.
I was going to say, back to the 2020 stuff, I remember talking with some friends and saying, hey, listen, imagine things were flipped. Imagine if out of nowhere, Trump got an extra 95,000 votes out of nowhere in the middle of the night. Like you said, when the machines were down, when they cut everything off so you can't see anything. Imagine if that happened. Imagine how hard these Democrats would be fighting to say that it was stolen and so on and so forth. The other great meme that I remember, I'm sure you guys remember seeing the chart of the votes where they got the Biden votes here, the Trump votes here, and then the Biden votes here, and then just in the middle of nowhere it spikes right up. Somebody had a picture of Trump and Biden urinating, and they said, imagine this is what happened.
Yeah. Well, it's true. That graph that everybody's seen, and I don't, maybe we can throw one up here in post, but that graph is so obvious that something happened. Yet they don't. The Democrats will say, "No, that's normal." Those mail-in votes just happened to come in at that time. Yeah,
sure.
So unbelievable. But anyway, here's something that is very believable. This device, the Cali key, removes your AR from the definition of assault weapon. Did you know that when so-called assault weapon ban lists are created, they exclude manually operated bolt-action firearms? So just by dropping this Cali key into your direct impingement AR in place of your semi-automatic BCG, you will have a bolt-action rifle that falls outside the definition of an assault weapon. You don't need to do anything else. So give Cali Key a look, because with it, you could retain all your rifle's features, avoid registration complications, revive your black rifle sales if you're an FFL, regain the ability to do private party transfers, legally transport across hostile jurisdictions, hunt with your AR in areas like Pennsylvania, enhance long-range precision and quieter suppressed shooting. Cali Key has state-specific expert attorney opinions on its website and supports grassroots Second Amendment organizations with its sales. Cali Key's mission is to empower customers and claw back our civil liberties. Go to calikey.com and use the discount code LOADED. All right. Charlie, you mentioned that you talked or you saw Tom Greaves' video. I was just thinking, we just had Tom on the show a couple weeks ago. He's what a great guest and what a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to say the video came out yesterday. I'm assuming he came out yesterday, July 3rd, and it's about 16 minutes long, and it's something about the title for it is something like why he's as much as he thinks it's victory, he still has some concerns. Is not necessarily happy that it passed the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of gun owners feel the same way. It's nice to have a win, and it's a little bit of a win, I guess, but it's still not nearly where. But the idea that I like now is that Gun Owners of America and others will go in, and attack legally. It's going to cost money and it's going to take a lot of time, but now maybe we have a better chance of winning this thing. We'll see, I guess, and we'll just keep supporting the groups that we think are doing the best job. I happen to be partial to Gun Owners of America, but I have friends in all the groups. Second Amendment Foundation, a lot of great people over there too, and Firearms Policy Coalition, and some people, just people in all these groups. Anyway, I wanted to get to another topic here. Danny, how much time we got before break? 5 minutes. All right. So let's get into this. This guy in New York City, this guy who it could potentially be the mayor, Mamdani.
Commie.
Yep. This is an article from New York Post. Mamdani targets New York City's wealthy in tax plan as spotlight turns to mother's $2 million Chelsea loft where socialists launched his career. This is hysterical, these people. Mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani has built his political profile on a promise to transform the city's housing landscape, arguing for rent freezes, which this alone drives me absolutely crazy because I'm a landlord, tax reform, and redistribution from richer and whiter neighborhoods to low-income outer borough communities. But the Democrat socialist could face scrutiny over the home history of his own family, specifically his mother, award-winning filmmaker and Columbia University professor Mira Nair. Nair, best known for directing Monsoon Wedding and The Namesake, quietly owned a luxury loft in Manhattan's West Chelsea neighborhood over a decade. What do you guys think about taking money from the white neighborhoods and giving them to other neighborhoods, less fortunate?
I don't know.
Do we have a
racist?
Could it be a little racist?
Just to say that. Well, the fact that you can have a candidate saying those things in 2025 is amazing, right? I mean, how does that fly?
Especially when he comes from that.
Right. Never had a job.
He comes from wealth, but yet these people amaze me. Charlie, what are your thoughts?
I call them self-hating Americans. Like let's have a successful family, make some money, live in a nice neighborhood, do well for ourselves, take nice vacations, and then turn around and say that we're against rich people. Right? Like, I don't want to have money. Okay, you can give it up anytime you want. What did Tim Walz say a few months ago? He's like, oh, if he was rich, he'd be standing on the corner handing people money. That's really not what wealthy people do to give people money. They start businesses and give people jobs so they can make money. But yeah, this guy, I can't remember. Did he come out as a socialist or a communist? Like flat out came out as one, didn't he?
Yeah. Go ahead.
He wants the government to take over the means of production. He wants to have free. He wants the city to own the supermarkets. He wants free public housing, which we know how well that's worked in the past, right? So it's just one step across the line of being full-blown communist, in my opinion, anyway.
If you want, I rent, right? So I'm a fan of having a rent freeze. However, if they have a rent freeze, you're going to have a tax freeze too,
Right,
because my
exactly.
landlord comes to me and says, "Hey, listen, the rent's going up. The rent's going up because the taxes are going up, because the water bill's going up, because, property taxes and all the other nonsense to keep the towns and the cities going. Those expenses, if those are going to keep going up, but you can't raise rent, then where are they going to make this extra money?"
They think they're going to pull it from the business owners and the landlords and the property owners. That's where they think. They think. I don't even think they believe this, the Mandamis guys, these people, the Democrats. I don't think they actually believe it, but I think that they can fool Democrat voters into believing that the landlords and property owners will be punished and they will lose profit. It's never going to happen. No landlord is going to rent their space out at a loss. We just raised our rents because the national average of rents goes up a certain percentage every year. It changes every year, but you have to do that because otherwise your profit margin shrinks and eventually you have no profit. So you have to raise and you have to stay within, and you can't maintain the properties,
Right.
which is another thing.
Right.
So, from the perspective I've been both. I've been a renter. I've been a landlord. And I understand both perspectives, but if you understand how it all works, how the money works, like Charlie said, his landlord says, look, taxes are going up, water's going up, sewer is going up, garbage, everything, maintenance, try hiring a contractor. It's more expensive now. Once you understand that, you're like, okay, I get it. And you realize that the landlords aren't necessarily gouging the tenants or just trying to keep that minimal profit margin there.
Well, you have to understand profit margin, first of all, to understand that concept. And people that have been employees their whole life, they don't understand any of that. I mean, they really don't understand it.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yep.
Yeah, they don't. And we see this all the time with like fast food restaurants. And I remember I went into a McDonald's recently, and there's no employees. There's hardly anywhere to sit, and there are 4 different kiosks to put my order in. And I went in and I stood there. I'm like, I'm not going to learn how to work this stupid machine. I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to do this. This is ridiculous. Right? I'm going to punch in my order. I'm sure they're still going to screw it up. And then it said it would take cash and wouldn't. It's ridiculous. And this is what's going to happen.
That's it. I'm out of here.
I'm done. I'm out. I'm all I wanted was some breakfast. Right? It's ridiculous. And then when there's less people working, because they have to pay them more. So now we have to have more automated things to prepare the food and take the orders and do all the other stuff, because there's 2 or 3 people that are working the whole store. And
here's another thing with capitalism. Although they try to convince voters that capitalism is bad, capitalism operates on a competition system. So the landlords, the McDonald's stores, all these businesses, they can't charge too much unless, in the rare instance, they're a monopoly and they have control over the market in that industry. They can't charge too much because there's always another comparable company, business, apartment, building, commercial space, whatever, that will come in and undercut them. So the capitalists are always fighting to stay competitive. So the idea that I think capitalism is, bludgeoning the consumer, I think is totally false when you really understand how the process works. We got to go to break. Charlie, stick around. We're going to be right back after this commercial. We're going to talk more with Charlie Cook, and we got some really good stuff coming up. So don't go anywhere. Check out these sponsors. Be right back.
The Cali Key removes your AR from the definition of an assault weapon. It lets you keep your rifle with all its features, avoid registration hassles, and transport in hostile jurisdictions. The Cali Key also lets you hunt in jurisdictions like Pennsylvania and enhances long-range precision shooting. Cali Key's expert legal opinions empower informed decisions, and sales help grassroots Second Amendment organizations. Cali Key is your tool to keep and equip your AR. Empower yourself and defend your civil rights.
Our founding fathers saw them coming over 200 years away. That's why they wrote the Second Amendment. Join us in the fight to preserve your gun rights and stop unconstitutional gun control. Gun Owners of America is the country's only no-compromise gun rights organization. Not only do we inform and educate, but we bring the fight to court and win. Your God-given right to keep and bear arms is our top priority. Become a member today and help us take back America. Join us at gunowners.org. So we're talking with Charlie Cook and John Chiara, and we were talking about capitalism and rents and all this stuff. Charlie, I sorry we had to go to break, but what are your thoughts on that? You wanna let us know what you're thinking on that whole thing?
Yeah, but like I said about the rents, if the rents go up because taxes go up, everything goes up because like we said, the employees have to pay more people. If California has to have a minimum wage of $30 an hour, there's going to be less people working at the fast food places when you go in there, and there's going to be more kiosks, and there's going to be less people working because the price of and the cost of everything goes up, and it's just kind of what it is. And if I love hearing people complain about capitalism, and they love complaining about capitalism as they send me a text message on their iPhone that costs $1,200, right?
Well, the only thing that really screws those things up is when socialist ideas come in, like you're talking about the kiosks. That happens because minimum wage is manually, raised. So that's socialism. That's an effect of a socialist idea when you come in and you create a minimum wage, because now you're forcing the economy, you're forcing the industry to do something that it's not comfortable doing. So then the business owners go, okay, fine, screw you. You want to play this game? We can play. We can bring in electronics. We can get rid of all these employees if that's what you want. That's an example of how socialist ideas comes in and kills the economy, kills jobs, and makes prices go up. Yet the liberals somehow find a way to blame capitalism for that. Any thoughts?
They don't understand capitalism.
Yeah, that's what you said. That. I don't.
Why would you want to be paying somebody working at McDonald's $60,000 a year to flip burgers?
Yeah.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
That's not what those jobs are for. We all know that. You know what I mean? Oh, you can't live on a minimum wage. You can never live on minimum wage. When those jobs weren't there, those jobs were for kids, college kids or high school kids to make money over the summer. You know what I mean? That's
exactly.
what it was for.
16-year-old kid.
Big time.
Yeah, it's not, the minimum wage job is not designed, never was designed to raise a family. I don't think there should be any minimum wage at all. I think an employer should be able to offer $1 an hour to an employee, and that employee would go, what's wrong with you? You're no way. I'm not going to do that, and go down the road and get 10, 15, 20, whatever.
Operate in the real system, right?
In the real system where it's all competitive. Yeah, so we don't need government. We don't need a group of pencil pushers to come in and tell businesses how much they need to pay their employees. That screws up the whole system. It should flow naturally where there's a competitive arena, right? And what are your thoughts, Charlie? Sorry.
I think about going to Walmart too, right? I was just thinking about this as you were talking, and I actually stopped at Walmart last night. I needed something really quick, and I just needed a few items. And I'm a firm believer that the self-checkout is for the people that have less than whatever, 9 or 10, 11 items. I get aggravated when I see people with a whole shopping cart full of things at the self-checkout, because to me, that's not what it's for. The self-checkout's always been about, you're in a rush, you don't want to wait in line, you got 3 items, come to the self-checkout. But there was a huge long line at the self-checkout. There were, 1 or 2 of the regular checkouts, and I was kind of in a rush. I walked in, I stood there, I shook my head, and I left. I'm like, I'm not gonna stand here and wait around 20 minutes to get 3 items. I'll come back later. I hate saying it's less hassle to come back later, but it is less hassle to come back later. And the reason, I remember telling one lady, I used to talk to one of the ladies at Walmart on, whatever, just yapping with her, BSing with her when I'm doing the checkout. And once they put in the the 4 self checkouts, she was the one that was leading these. And I went up to her one day and I said, "Hey, you are so good at being a checkout, doing the cash register and doing the checkout here, that they made you in charge of 4 of them. Look at this. You are so good at doing these, And I guess, I don't know if that's a promotion or a lateral move or an upward move or a downward move, but now rather than checking people out and scanning all their stuff, she's just got to stand there and watch people scan.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Sebastian Maniscalco. Is that his name? He's
the comedian.
Italian comedian. He's hysterical. He talks about. He goes, "Look, I'm not trained. We're not trained to do this. We don't understand how to do these computers, how to do these scanning."
The grocery store gave up on us. They put in self-express checkout links. They basically said, "You know what? You do it. Why am I working at the grocery store now?" We weren't properly trained on this machine.
But it's that whole thing is a new concept, and it's I don't know, something like, how do you do produce? I never know how to do produce.
Put it on there. It asks you to pick a product. You go through and you pick it. Then you got to choose if it's organic or not. Hopefully it's up there on the screen, because if it's not, then you got to call the person over anyway.
Yeah.
Can you find where my avocados are here? Blah, blah, blah.
Right. I've got the russet potatoes versus the the red potatoes or something.
They all have designations, right? And if you don't know what that is when you get to register and you got to pick, you're like, I just lied.
Right. And
pick the cheapest one.
Right. I mean, are we the buffoons if we don't pick the cheapest potato that's on there?
And then, I don't know, Charlie, I don't know about you, but in New York, we get charged per paper bag. Do you get charged in Massachusetts?
Oh, it all depends. Like some of the, and I, not that I'm a connoisseur of Walmart here, but the Walmart in my town does not charge for plastic bags. They don't have a paper bag option. There's a Walmart in Worcester that charges you. They have like the thicker plastic bags, and they charge you for those. They charge you whatever, 5 or 6 or 7 cents. Some of the grocery stores charge you stuff. So here's what I've done. All of the events that we go to, I can pick up I can pick up a pot of gold AZ Firearms green bag. One of the non-recyclable ones from my good friend Cheryl Todd, she and her husband's business. I get one from Gunbroker, and I get another one from like the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival. I keep those in my trunk, and when I go into one of these stores where you have to pay for grocery bags, I bring my pro gun bag into the store with me.
Cool.
You know, it's funny. My wife does the same thing. She has the bags and stuff, and like we go to our conventions, our Second Amendment conventions, and I had a couple of those bags. So like the Gunbroker one I specifically had, and I just, threw it in the pile where she keeps all the other bags. And my wife is going shopping with the Gunbroker bag. I thought that was kind of funny, scaring all the liberal women. You mentioned Worcester again, Charlie. Isn't that where strippers go when they wear out their welcome in Los Angeles?
Yes. When they're tired of working in LA and Miami and New York, they come to Worcester, all the way to Worcester.
Are you in Worcester now?
I live about 20 minutes west of Worcester.
Right, my girlfriend's daughter was at a concert in Worcester last Saturday for something. I don't know what.
That's anyway. Cool. That's cool.
There's
I think there's 3 strip joints in Worcester. I've never been to any of them.
Cool. Oh yeah, sure you haven't. Charlie.
No.
Yeah.
Talk about that later.
Back in my 20s, I probably would have, but now not so much. But my attitude towards strip joints is very much the same as it is to gun shows. I don't go to gun shows and I don't go to gun stores and strip joints because there's things I'd like to put my hands on and nothing I'm coming home with. Right. So I'm not doing this. Like, why would I want to frustrate myself?
Yeah, and you can't handle them, without assistance. And
right, or gloves.
I got a quick story for you. I did audio production for the Harley Rendezvous last week, right? Which is 49th year.
How many people are there?
I don't know. It's less every year. But I had a guard guy, Barton, who's been there for 47 years, who was sitting up on the platform with me as my guard, right, to keep people from walking into the platform where I was mixing from. It was a big concrete slab. And he had to leave to go do the fireworks Saturday night. As soon as he left, people started walking in. And I turn my head, and all of a sudden, some girl comes up and says, "Hi, these are for you." Opens her shirt and sticks it right in my face. I'm just like, you can stop doing that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong.
She's
with
just
that.
trying to express her love toward
exactly.
you, toward your wonderful sound engineering.
I saw you'll appreciate this one, guys. I saw a meme this week. It's some guy holding up a sign that says, "Bring back rock music that make women want to show their boobs."
There you go.
Well, speaking of
That's what I did all weekend.
speaking of fake boobs, University of Pennsylvania is finally doing the right thing, and we should thank young women like Paula Scanlon and Riley Gaines who never gave up the fight. Their article from the New York Post. This week, the University of Pennsylvania apologized to female swimmers on their 21 and 22 roster who had to endure a season of changing next to a biological male in the locker room and competing with strapping 6'1" athlete Leah, formerly Will Thomas. They also restored any school records broken by Thomas, who became the first transgender athlete to win a Division I NCAA title. This wasn't some heartfelt moral reckoning, rather to resolve a U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights investigation into the school's violation of Title IV for allowing a biological male to swim on the women's team. It's poignant that this about-face was forced by Thomas because he was the figure who took the debate of trans athletes in women's sports from a niche issue to a full-on nuclear culture war battle. The madness started relatively low-key in 2017 when trans runner Andrea Yearwood took 2 titles in Connecticut high school girls track. So I thought that was pretty good, pretty interesting. I think the whole tranny invasion of men and women's sports is starting to die down. What are you guys' thoughts? Go ahead.
I think so. I mean, and they nullified all her records. They did it. They changed everything. So it's at least, well, everybody pretty much agrees on that anyway, right? It's one of these things that slip through the cracks and says, oh, you can't say negative things about this, but everybody thinks that it should be the other way. So that's good. That's progress.
You think they would. I mean, it's just common sense, but I don't know if everybody does. I mean, obviously the liberals, either they actually believe that a man can magically turn into a woman, or they just hold on to that argument for political purposes.
That's what I think, right? Because it doesn't make any sense. I mean, why would...
How can they believe it? Do they actually believe it?
I don't think so. And how unfair is that to all the girls who's worked their whole, high school careers or college careers to get where they are, and then, oh, here comes a guy, and sorry, you're out. It's insane.
Charlie, any thoughts on that?
It's I'm glad that these women can get their records back and get their titles and awards and things. I think we're going to look back and be like, this is a ridiculous time in our country where we thought that I hate saying this, biological men can be non-biological women and pretend to be women, and we have to accept them as women. And I kind of hope it does come to an end. And if you want to identify that way, that's fine. If you want to change the way that you look and change your personality, like, I don't, we have friends that do this, and that's fine. Like, that's totally cool. But you can't participate. You can't have a male body and participate in female sports. It's the reason that we have women's sports is because it's not the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you're right. We do know people, and they're good people. But this whole thing with men and women's sports is just, it takes it to the. And here's the thing I was thinking about. So when you think about it, it's kind of interesting to watch how the Democrats simultaneously, defend women's rights and men and women's sports. So it's like, why are they so? This is, I think, why they're so angry and hateful. It's because they have been brainwashed into defending the indefensible. But they also have been taught to believe that they're morally and intellectually superior to others, which is why they can't go back on their, current positions. So because if they did, they'd be admitting that they'd been tricked.
They were wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. And tricked by the very people they trusted. So they've also been convinced that they're the good guys, but if they admit that men don't actually belong in women's sports, they'd have to admit that they are, in fact, the bad guys in the scenario. And they're forced to do mental gymnastics, and it's driving them absolutely crazy. I believe it is. I think this is why they're so hateful and mad. They hate the position they're in, but they're stuck because, they just can't, there's no way of arguing the position that they put themselves in. It's unbelievable. Go ahead.
Yeah, I saw a video today where a woman came out and said that Trump should become transgender and change his gender so he can become the first female president. but of course the liberals would not accept this, which means they would have to admit that declaring that you're a woman is ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like you can't do that, and that would be a great thing. But it kind of shows them for the sham that they are when they have these positions and they stay on this position, and like they're not going to admit that they're wrong. And it's very much like COVID was, right? They want to sit here and say, well, you're a COVID denier, and if you didn't get the shot, then you're going to die. And here we are 5 years later, everything's fine, no health issues, no problems. It's just these people are nuts. I don't know who said it. Was it Michael Savage that gets credit for saying that liberalism is a mental disorder?
Yeah, so he wrote a book. Because they judge. That's why.
Yeah.
They judge because of their narrative. They're, like you say, they think that they're morally superior, so they feel that they're justified in judging people. Like every major religion teaches against that, but they're not about religion at all either. So they're outside of all this, on the outside, judging all the people that are used to be considered normal. And I don't know where you go with that.
And isn't it ironic how the only religion that they support is the very religion that would have them killed for a lot of their beliefs? Isn't it ironic? It's like, do they not see this stuff?
It's a shallow narrative. It never digs below the surface.
God, let me get one response. Oh, go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's a callback to what we were talking about with the rent control. You shouldn't have to pay more rent, but you shouldn't have to pay more taxes, but taxes are going up to pay for everything. So how can it's a silly cycle.
It's a silly cycle.
It is a silly cycle. That would be the new, maybe we should.
Scumbaggetry
And silly cycle. Anyway, LifeWave is a non-transdermal patch that allows your body to produce its own natural pharmacy through light energy. The X39 patch tells your body to emit heat in the form of light, which reflects back into your body, elevating a certain copper peptide. Now, this peptide activates your stem cells, which are the only type that can move throughout your body to heal inflammation. LifeWave offers an affordable membership and has a history of wellness that spans 20 years. It's been around since 2004 to help organizations like SEAL Team 6 and the Olympic swim team stay awake and alert. Today, these non-addictive patches are used by thousands of athletes and military professionals. LifeWave is available in over 80 countries, giving millions the opportunity of maximum wellness. So for more information, testimonials, patents, and studies, go to naturalpatchlife.com. Naturalpatchlife.com. All right. Where are we going here? Where are we going now, guys? What else do we have to talk about? I got one more. Okay, so we got 5 minutes. I got one more thing I want to hit. An article by Breitbart. Venezuela, home to some of the world's most atrocious political prisons, complains that Alligator Alcatraz is racist. So Venezuelan interior minister and wanted drug lord Diosdado Cabello claimed on Wednesday that the illegal migrant detention center at the Dade Collier Training and Transition Airport, commonly known as Alligator Alcatraz, is a concentration camp and evidence of the United States' racism and supremacy. Well, here's an idea. Just don't try to escape, and you won't get eaten by alligators. Guys, what are your thoughts?
Not getting eaten by alligators is a good thing.
Well, right. It says, go ahead, Charlie.
There's only one way not to get eaten by alligators, and it's to not go where alligators are.
Exactly. That's what I always say. Stay out of the swamp.
Right?
So they're illegal. They're getting brought to this jail, but yet the libs and the Venezuelan, whoever this guy is, are complaining that it's inhumane or whatever, racist and all this stuff to have alligators around. Why are they there in the first place? They're illegal, violent criminals.
Would they be better to have sharpshooters on the outside of the alley and take people out? Like
This guy from Venezuela is commenting on that.
Right,
Weren't they eating their pets in
way to take them
Venezuela?
out.
Yeah, weren't they eating dogs? The economy got so bad, they're eating their pets. This stuff is unbelievable. Anyway, they built the prison right now with protection from supposed alligators and snakes so that anyone who escapes will be caught outside. Anyway, I think Alligator Alcatraz is a great idea.
It's funny.
It's true.
It is funny.
And then you see all the memes about alligators. Oh, what's on the menu? Oh, Mexican food this week.
God, it's terrible.
That's awesome.
The thing of it is that the majority of the people that are probably being, deported are not Mexican people.
Well, that's true. Right.
So,
Yeah.
And I mean, let's face it, they're probably not upstanding citizens either, right? They're probably not. They're probably not the Mormons that are going out there and there's the reason these people are locked up.
Well, that's just it. I mean, the left paints these criminals as good people. They're
well,
not.
take any 15 million group of people and tell me everybody's going to be just fine in that group. That doesn't make any sense. It's just statistically impossible. But they don't even want to discuss that. You're being a bad person because you're doing what you're doing, and that's all it meant. That's all they care about.
Yeah. Hey, Charlie, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you, what you're doing these days, and kind of your call to action?
All right. So I have a show called Riding Shotgun with Charlie, where I interview people in the car as we drive around and talk about guns and liberty and freedom and whatever. I try to make the passengers on my show look like rock stars. So I've got a YouTube channel. I've got a Facebook page, obviously. I put the show out as podcast so they can listen to it and listen to the shows. I've actually been putting some shows that I recorded at the NRA annual meetings back at the end of April. And these are little 12 to 15 or 16 minute shows. I'm calling them pit stops. And I'm just putting them out as audio. I have YouTube links for those too, but there's just one stagnant picture I'm putting there. So I've got Riding Shotgun on YouTube. I've got the podcast. I write for news2a.com, which is some friends out of New Jersey. I write for Armed Lifestyle magazine, and I just did one of my interviews. I did an interview last night with Phil Schreier from the National Fire Museum. Got to talk with him about the American Revolution. I have my first review on the Square Reviews come out. I reviewed a couple of out the front knives that I picked up at the Great American Outdoor Show. And you can find Riding Shotgun on AmmoLand. I think that's all the stuff that I got. That's where people can find me and everything I'm up to.
Excellent. Well, you're doing a lot of great stuff. Go ahead, Joe.
So how much were those knives, Charlie?
About 750 words is how much the knives were. The knives retailed for about I think $80 to $100. So they're out the front knives as of last August. In August of 2024 in Massachusetts, it was legal to have an out the front knife, or as we call them, automatic knives, or if you're a jet or a shark, you call it a switchblade. But I've been carrying them around for a couple months. I'll tell you what was really cool is they have little window breakers on them. So I was like, well, what's going to make my knife review a little bit different? Why don't I go to a junkyard and break some windows?
There you go.
So that was pretty cool. I got some video. I went to a junkyard. I figured it would be easier to talk to somebody rather than calling or messaging them. So if they get it's harder to reject me to my face, right? So I went to this junkyard and I said, hey, I want to bust out some windows. I got a knife with a window breaker on it. And they, can I do this? And the guy's like, yeah, let's go right now. I'm like, no, not yet. No, I got to bring a friend and we're going to video this and I got to turn it into an article. And I'll tell you the thing that would really, it wasn't the knife. One of my buddies had this thing called a Rescue Me, which are, I don't know, you get 3 of them for like $12 on Amazon. And it's a little window popper. You push this little thing, it breaks the car window right open and you can cut your seatbelt. And I always thought seatbelts seemed like they were indestructible, but I was able to get the 2 knives that I have cut right through them like butter.
Oh, if you slice them right,
cool.
they'll cut. Yeah.
Good to know.
That was
anyway, all right, well, we're out of time. Sorry, Charlie, but thanks for being here. It was great having you on the show. Thank you.
Happy 4th.
John, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching the show on Rumble, YouTube, and all our podcast networks. social media networks. You can find us just about anywhere. Just remember, the Second Amendment is not a privilege. It's your right